What's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, interesting facts. I don't know why I always send interesting facts. You be the judge whether they're interesting or not. But I'm going to read them off to you anyway because I want to learn some things. Today, we're going to learn about 8 notable art movements in history. The art world is constantly evolving. In the past 300 years alone, popular styles and movements have seen paintings get blurrier, colors turn brighter, and eyeballs and noses appearing in places where eyeballs and noses had never been before. There's an ism for this and another ism for that. It can be hard to keep track of it all. Here's a brief primer on some of the most significant art movements in the last 3 centuries and how they got their names. Number 1, and I hope I don't pronounce this incorrectly, ukiyo-e. Translated from Japanese, ukiyo-e literally means pictures of the floating world, a nod to the ephemeral nature of normal life. The paintings often depicted cultural touchstones like kabuki actors and sumo wrestlers. The movement's signature style, which emerged around the 1670s, revolved around woodblock prints that featured thick, flat lines and bold colors, like those on Katoshika Hokusai's The Great Wave of Kanagawa. Decades later, ukiyo-e's daring use of color and shapes would inspire the French Impressionists. Number 2, Romanticism. After the Enlightenment brought a flourishing of rational thought and scientific advancements in the 18th century, artists began pondering how progress had diminished humanity's connection to the transcendent. There had to be more to existence, right? The resulting Romantic era, which began in the late 1700s and continued into the next century, saw philosophers celebrate the genius of individual artists, treating painters and musicians as godlike conduits with special powers that could connect humans with the sublime. The awe of the natural world. Paintings often united one's strong emotions with nature, like John Constable's Salisbury Cathedral from the Bishop's Ground, and others portrayed nature as violent and terrifying, like Theodore Géricault's The Raft of the Medusa. Other artists from the Romanticism period include Francisco Goya, J.M.W. Turner, and Caspar David Friedrich. Number 3, Impressionism. In 1872, Claude Monet finished his oil on canvas Impression Sunrise, depicting the murky coastal seascape of the port of Le Havre, France. Soon, the word Impressionism was being thrown around to describe the surge of ethereal, blurry paintings by Monet and other French painters such as Camille Pissarro, Paul Cézanne, Edgar Degas, and Edouard Manet. The movement was a revolt against the increasingly stuffy stylings of the French academic establishment, which had spent decades placing a premium on clean lines and photographic realism. Notable works from this movement include L'Absinthe by Degas, Luncheon of the Boating Party by Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe by Manet. Number 4, Fauvism. A step between Impressionism and Surrealism, Fauvism briefly swept France during the early 20th century. Fauvists exaggerated the colors of their subjects. A warm sunset might be painted a deep maroon, while a dusky street scene could come alive in ultramarine. The colors were bold, bright, and brash, like in Blackfriars Bridge, London, by André Derain. What the paintings lacked in realism, they made up for in their vibrant expression. Fauvis's works popped with personality. Unsurprisingly, conservative members of the artistic establishment were not fans. They denounced the paintings as the works of les Fauves, that is, wild beasts. Number 5, Cubism. In 1908, the critic Louis Vauxelles described the work of Parisian painter Georges Braque as geometric schemas and cubes, and a movement was born. Cubist painters like Braque were interested in reducing their subjects to basic geometric shapes. A human body became a rectangle, the head a square, and so on. But this was more than just a return to geometry class. The artists presented their subjects from multiple perspectives and viewpoints, often in the same painting, creating radically distorted forms like those that eventually made Pablo Picasso famous. Number 6, Surrealism. By the time World War I erupted in 1914, Sigmund Freud's writings on the influence of the subconscious had taken off. So when European artists revolted by the ongoing collapse of society began looking for new ways to express themselves, they found it in the dreamlike void of their subconscious. Surrealists embraced their unconscious minds and tried to stir the hidden interior worlds of their audiences, like in The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. The movement's name likely came from Guillaume Apollinaire, an artist who wrote in a 1917 letter, quote, "I think, in fact, that it is better to adopt surrealism than supernaturalism," end quote. Number 7, Dada. Nobody is certain where the name for Dada originated, which is fitting. The art movement is hard to define. As one story goes, a German artist slid a knife into a dictionary and landed on the word Dada, a French term for a hobby horse. Dada developed in the early 20th century as a reaction to the horrors of World War I, which many believed had defied all reason, logic, and rationality. To Dadaist society's attempt to make things normal again was just a ruse. They embraced the wacky, weird, and nonsensical. They revolted against conventions, traditions, and gatekeepers. They were irreverent and irrational, all in an attempt to shock people back into awareness of how the world really was. Notable works from the Dada movement include Bicycle Wheel by Marcel Duchamp, Ingress Violin by Man Ray, and Mechanical Head by Raoul Haussmann. Number 8, Bauhaus. For centuries, artists were just ordinary people trained in a decorative craft. But Romanticism changed that by successfully elevating artisans to a higher plane. The Industrial Revolution further separated the artistic world from the so-called practical world. But starting around 1919, the Staatliches Bauhaus, a group of art and design schools in Germany, pushed to return art to its roots by merging it with the means of mass production. The aim of Bauhaus was to unify art with the everyday. Think metalworking, pottery, cabinet making, a mission reflected in the school's slogan, Art into Industry. Practitioners in the world of architecture achieved great success during this movement. Bauhaus schools closed in 1933 due to political tension in Germany and the rising Nazi Party. But the impact of the movement continued to live on. Bauhaus founder and architect Walter Gropius and student-turned-faculty member Marcel Breuer went on to teach at Harvard Graduate School of Design, mentoring notable architects like I.M. Pei, Edward L. Barnes, and Paul Rudolph. I know I had a lot of trouble with some of the pronunciations, but that's 8 notable art movements in history. I learned some things. How about you? Drop me some comments. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share, and stick around for more interesting facts and learn some things with me. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Smarter. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.